Hello, everyone. Lana Thomas here with the Council of Wisdom, back with you. If this is the first time you're listening to the Council of Wisdom and the messages they're bringing, I welcome you, sincerely welcome you, and thank you very much for taking the time. What I want to do is begin by explaining a little bit about who the Council of Wisdom are for those who may not have heard previous recordings and messages from them. The Council of Wisdom, as they explained themselves to me after contacting me and asking if I would be willing to share information that they gave to me with viewers, with listeners that are going through particularly trying times as our planet's going through some really magnificent transformations. As it goes through transformations, we're going through them at the same time. So it's disconcerting, to say the least. And we're trying to just make sense of it, trying to stay at peace in it, and trying to get through it as best we can. But also to thrive in it is the message. So the Council of Wisdom they would be underneath what we would call the throne of God. Like in this picture on this slide, it shows the four directions, the four faces. The most faiths, regardless of what they believe in the four directions and the significance of the earth and the air and the wind and fire. As they addressed me and told me who they were, they said they, in essence, however long ago we can understand in infinity, they were the creators of the four directions and they maintain it. So it gives you an idea of the source of their power. And also to the degree that they really are in control of many things. And it's good to know that we have somebody above our own local governments or above us, that we know that there's someone who knows what's going on and is taking charge and doing it in the best way for everybody. And with regard to our future is the key. So when they asked me to begin to share some messages, they had just said that they've been through this before. They know how trying it can be for people, and so they wanted to give us some information to make it easier. So as they explained themselves, they would be, like you say, if we said that the throne of God, the Godhead, the Goddess, the Father and Mother, and the Son in most respects, most people believe in Sananda or Jesus Christ. And so as they are sitting underneath them, then they would be like the CEOs of the company, where the Godhead would be the shareholders. So, and they just put it in terms that we could really understand. Underneath them, the archangels and all the thrones and the different hierarchy of the angels. They relegate to them what they would like to have them do with regard to the ultimate plan for our universe, the ultimate plan for our planet and the universes. And everything is working in accordance with each other, as above, so below, on a multi-universal level. So it's complex, so to keep it as simple as possible, they explain that if they are, like our archangels would be the managers of our companies, at the top management level. And underneath them would be our supervisors, and underneath them would be the people, just working on the floor, the laborers, the IT people, the people who are taking care of just the daily functioning of their own lives and what's happening on the planet. So as they presented themselves in that light, I thought that I wanted to, just in case you didn't hear the first video, would understand who the Council of Wisdom is and why I'm trying to share their information. So as I go through these slides, because I think showing slides rather than you looking at me while I'm talking, because as the old saying goes, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So we're going to go through what they're stating is happening and how the governmental actions, the geological and the spiritual and the physical things are going to alter our lives. They want us to know that if we're aware of what's happening, there'll be less fear, we can relax and move with it. So as we move through these slides, again, I thank you for being here. And let's talk about, in the next slide, what they say is going on. I was going through some old files after being prompted by the Council of Wisdom to look through the files on my computer, and came across one called the Moses Message from the spring of 2019. At the time when they had me transcribe that message from them, I found it somewhat intriguing, at the same time kind of amusing. It's like, really, the Moses Message, but I understood the gist of it. I understood the severity of the message that they were trying to convey and the importance of it. So in that, I wrote it all down, filed it away, and it's come up to the future and up to the present, where I just wanted to share this with you. What they're talking about is the gross disparity in income, which we're all aware of and we know what it's doing to us, but they're talking about how we don't really quite understand that there are ways that we could change that disparity, that we can make things more equal. So rather than telling you about it, I'm going to read to you what they said in this message. It said, the perils of wealth and abundance discourage a life less redundant, and many are they who are hindered by a life lacking meaning, except the pursuit of gold. Is it perilous to pursue wealth? Is it relevant to even ask such a question when every maxim in society within first world countries shouts the necessity of monetary abundance to prove one's success? Does the question beg re-examination as to what truthfully defines success? Do we really have one rule that measures our accomplishments, and that rule is money? Have we relegated the value of life to how much money we make, and thus errantly devalue the lives of all those who make too little to be perceived as worthy of dignity? It is not without peril that one lets their life become a marathon of jumping hurdles and overcoming obstacles that are rewarded with pay raises and the accompanying hike in consumerism. We make more to spend more. Why perilous? The value of life is clouded in stress, drama, complexity, exhaustion, and resultant poor health that often ends in poor quality of life and premature death due to stress-induced illness. Many, numbering in the millions, are the broken-hearted who die before ever realizing this elusive dream. The clouded perception of what is really valuable and worthy of lifelong pursuit has led us to the point of needing to examine our present social constructs of income disparity and, yes, the reliability of the promise that you can accomplish anything if you work hard enough. We must stop and be honest with ourselves in our queries regarding the truth of the possibility of the dream ever becoming a reality to the masses, because for the masses it has proven to be false. In retrospect, it seems the dream, like privilege, elitism, wealth, and even honor, exist only for a few. We must question if the dream is possible. Why is it so many why have so many worked themselves to death and still die in poverty? It is time we, as a member of the masses, move beyond accepting the blame of our inherent inadequacies to make the dream come true, and begin to examine the systemic principles that ensure only a few, about 1% of the world's population, can ever become abundantly wealthy. The need to take pause and stop looking at the ridiculously wealthy as the privileged and the more deserving among us is apparent. After all, it is obvious they are no different than other people. They are not better, no more intelligent, no more gifted or special than most people on the face of the earth, and yet somehow we appoint them the enviable position of demigods and entrust the bulk of the world's wealth to them, even though part of the trust placed in them to acknowledge those who work so hard in their factories, their offices, and businesses is constantly violated when they continue to take more than their share, even beyond having more than they could ever use or need. Yes, They are the fortunate ones, we whisper with bowed heads as they pass by. Modern day slavery is still slavery, and it is a reality. What the Council of Wisdom would really like us to take a look at is the fact that it's a medieval approach. It's outdated. So they want to enlighten us more, give us more information. The financial basis of our society is like a Ponzi scheme of epic proportions. The hallmark of a Ponzi scam is a promise of incredible returns at little or no risk to the investor. The investment made by the individual is that of working steadily with pay for months and years for the company's shareholder with continual expectation of substantial reward someday. The Ponzi scheme begins during the job interview process. During an interview, the promise of promotions, pay increases, affordable benefits, and fulfilling work lure the worker in, and once they are ensnared in debt and the restrictions of living paycheck to paycheck, they will sacrifice their dream for the reality of keeping a roof over their head and food in the stomachs of their children. For those heroes who grow weary of the extortion of their potential and labor and question where the raises and financial rewards are, the reply is, they have unfortunately not yet met the expectations of the company. It is thus conveyed that the employee, poor soul, not the employer, has reneged on the performance promise. The hero, now crushed and ashamed of his or her lack of talent and lack of commitment to working harder, slinks home to tell their significant other, you have been let down. The hero hesitates to admit he or she has let their dream die, but still hopeful, the hero rises and vows to return to work, renewed in the commitment to a greater good of the company, and reaffirms faith in personal efforts as the mean to getting everything once promised, before she is too old to matter. But rarely is that promise manifested into the dream. So the Council of Wisdom asks us, what will it take to halt the extortion of the masses for the benefit of the few? Some have tried to make a difference. But when a rebel begins to call into question the ethics and morality of such a construct and financial paradigm, the incensed true believers rise quickly. Protests abound, and those in control of the world's wealth shout out to the fear-filled worker that the damned bleeding hearts who defend the rights of the masses are going to bring about the collapse of the nation's infrastructure by creating a welfare state, or worse yet, a socialist society. This threat is so threadbare and flimsy it cannot stand up on fabricated merit much longer. Truth and possibility are seeping through the seams of a worn-out garment of false concern for the masses. The status quo still is, really? It is hard to believe that it could still be what it is. Is this the best we can have been able to design and the highest height we have been able to achieve as a way of life? Shame on the greedy and shame on the masses for not resisting their distortion of privilege. While we wait for change, the masses are worn down and tired. It is getting harder to placate them with televisions and a soft sofa. So now the masses get smartphones to keep them dumbed down and preoccupied with totally innocuous endeavors, such as selfies and social media that eat away at the minutes and hours of their lives. We must design a new platform on which to develop a new world. The universal mind, our inspiration, stands ready to assist. We just don't trust enough. But what choice do we have? Change has to be forthcoming, and we have to look to a newer, brighter, more intellectual, more intelligent world, something with more compassion. It's inevitable. In a civilized society, it became unjustifiable to whip slaves and force them to work. So, today, technology is a peaceful means of keeping the slaves working. The pretense that friends see Facebook pics as evidence of stardom, of people who are realizing the success dream, lulls workers into peaceful sleep and readiness to work again another day. Also, keeping them ignorant and uneducated is still an effective form of subjugation and compliance. Higher education is far too expensive for the masses. If we are to advance, education should be free to the public, just like K through 12. We need new leadership with a futuristic approach. What we have is worn out and ineffectual. It is of no use to anyone to rail on the injustices of an elitist society if one has no answer as how to solve the world's problems. However, too few yet see the issue as a problem. They still believe the dream because they need to. Without it, what else would folks have to keep them striving and making the elite even wealthier? If a bit of a rant may bring the issue to the attention of more people, then maybe the world's problems might improve, as God forbid it could get any worse. And yet it may have to get worse before the populace will rally to bring together some brilliant minds and selfless leaders who can find a way out of this mess. No, it is not that we need to make America great again. We need to consider something entirely new, because a nation built on slave labor was never great. It was serfdom and ridiculously outdated. We need something innovative and equilateral. We need a system novel and creative and fair and just, because history is clear. We have always been reliant upon the working class to maintain the non-working elitist class, when really no class is required at all. Change is coming. We adapt or become extinct. The future will not be like anything we have known. That is great news for those who welcome change, not so good for those who don't. As things stand now, there are literally billions of issues, billions in dollars of issues that separate the masses from the elite, and that is as stark as the chasm dare grow before the masses begin to resist going into work, declare their freedom, drop their shackles, and figuratively head north, where people experience more equality, just like the slaves did during the Civil War, just like the immigrants are doing in coming to the U.S. They still dream of a life of fairness and a chance, just a chance, at freedom from violence and poverty. They are just like our abject poor, tucked away in the dark corners of our cities. Everyone is deserving of a chance, but just like the slaves in ancient Egypt, the disillusioned, the weak, and tired are still waiting for Moses to guide them out of Egypt and into the land of milk and honey. Yes, it exists. It is just dominantly occupied by a selfish aristocracy, literally the 1% who hoard it all for themselves. Our cries are not being heard for deliverance, but answers are available. so we can deliver ourselves from evil. The universal mind of God is reaching down and offering to inspire and train a new leadership if we will only go into solitude and seek inspiration and a new paradigm of justice for all. We are all Moses, trampling through the wilderness of our own ignorance, and we will eventually be forced to wake up. We must replace the old with the new. The day will come when we will be forced to rise above iniquity, avarice, and greed, and become one in the pursuit of a new world for all. We need to seek inspiration. We need to form a collective consciousness designed to be a catalyst of change for all. We need to understand our oneness, come to terms with our desire for a more loving, more acceptable, more compassionate society, where we don't have poverty, where we don't have people in want and starving to death, people who are being abused, where we don't have a society of cruelty to the masses. So many of us have become so objectively unaware of what's really going on in the world. We see what's going on politically because we're just constantly bombarded with ads for candidates and campaign speeches and keeping a leadership intact that really just needs to simply just slip away into the darkness as something that's defunct and no longer working for the people who support it, the people who pay for it, the people, the masses who work and provide all the money that is used for that, and all the money that is then just trickled up and never coming back down. We're given the opportunity to seek inspiration, to get quiet, and let our minds begin to examine the possibilities, the wonders that are being offered from a universal mind, trying to understand what is going on in other universes and other dimensions is beyond our grasp. For right now, it doesn't have to stay that way. We can seek inspiration from all kinds of divine entities, brilliant minds far beyond anything that we could ever conceive, if we can just get quiet like we're forced to right now. This is April 19th, 2020. The things that have been happening to us recently have really made us begun to re-examine who we are, but not only that, who we could be. Right now we're trying to figure out what we can do, what we can be, other than to just be safe distancing ourselves in our homes, feeling like we're under quarantine, which we are. It's an opportunity right now, and it's going to be short-lived because this will change. And we will get back to the way things were, or at least some semblance of it. But a new world is coming, and would really be a marvelous thing if we could just collectively focus on the possibilities of a wondrous new form of government that comes in and treats everybody fairly. Something beyond our comprehension, only for the moment, because inspiration is available for any of those who will just sit and ask to be inspired. We need new leadership. We need entirely new constructs. One thing is simple, so it's not so far outside of our grasp. If we just understand, even with our system right now in the United States, if we had term limits, it would prevent this type of stodgy, old, collective ideas that we have within our government in Washington, D.C. People who've been there too long. People who think that they've acquired ownership. Think that they have the right to demand, to bang their fists, and to say, I want to be the leader today. I want to be the one with the biggest and the best toys. We need a very mature, not an immature group of people to lead us. And my thought has been, if what we have currently right now in Washington, D.C. is the best that we have to offer in this country, if they're our best and our brightest, we're in a really sad state of affairs. Sometimes I look and I think our leadership would what would be classed in many instances like the village idiots. They seem to have no concept of what they need to be doing. And we may not have those answers, not yet, but they're forthcoming, and we're going to have to step in to the new societies that are being pushed in. We're no longer at the point where we can just say, we can just choose, and that we have the right of free will. It's being relinquished. It's either going to be relinquished to our governments, or it's going to be relinquished to something divine that is going to bring in a whole new world for us. So, my friends, not with fear and trepidation, but with glorious revelation, we can change our world. We all need to take a part. So until next time, I thank you for the benefit of the counsel of wisdom that is trying to get our attention. And please do pray for inspiration so that we can move into a better world for all. Thank you. A world of love and compassion. Until next time.